in today's episode, we have to go back. Well, not really back, but we need to go back into our game and try and fix a few things. So I went into the game a few minutes ago and I saw that it might have been something that we did in the previous episode, but that was quite a while ago, so I can't really remember. But we need to go back into the game and try and fix our endpoint trigger. Because at the moment, when you move your cube into that endpoint trigger, wherever it be in the scene, it's not actually doing anything. So we need to go and get that to actually trigger the end of the level, as well as to display our end level panel, I think, that we created in one of the previous levels. Yeah, level complete panel. So we're going to do that today. So let's go and jump straight into here and see what we can do. So this is this little dot here is our endpoint trigger. It's a sphere that we need to. We are currently on level 1, so here it is. So this is the one that we need to get working. So we need to try and do that today. We might just go and get rid of it and replace it with something else, like sitting at the bottom. I think that's what we're gonna do. But then once we've got that working and actually triggering the end of the level, we want to go and get it to actually display the end level panel, which is this one here, which is displayed like that. So when that is displayed, we want to go and display the correct amount of moves that's taken you. So we're going to pull the move count from our global script and just place it into our level complete panel over here. So let's go and do that. So first things first, let's go and try and figure out what we want to do with our level complete endpoint trigger. So we're currently working in level 1. We have, I believe this is a prefab, so we want to go and change that. So in our sphere, let's open that up. And what I want to do is I want to just create a new 3D object, and that's going to be a cube. So let's make that bigger. So we want this to be, you can see it here in our game, because whatever we do to our prefab will update in our game level. So if I go and get rid of this by just disabling it, you can see it disables it in our actual game. So what we want to do is we want to change the scale of this on, I believe it's the y-axis. So let's go and set this to 1, like that. So there, actually we could make that a little bit smaller, because we really want it to look like it's like a kind of like a pancake. So let's go and put a 0. Or let's just say 0. I think that's fine. So yeah, because we want it to be as thin as we can get it. So that should be fine. And then we also want to go and position it at minus 0.5. And hopefully, or is it -1 maybe? Because we want it to be at the very bottom of the scene, so at the bottom over there. But we don't want to position it every single time in the level. So we need to try and say -1, -2. Is that it? No, -2.5 maybe. So I think that's fine. And then we could just get rid of our sphere. So let's go and, actually I don't think this is going to work. But what we'll do is we'll copy this. Actually, let's go and add everything on. So first we need to go and add our endpoint trigger onto it. So let's go and, let me just move this out the way, because that's annoying. So what we want to do is we want to add in our endpoint trigger script onto that, so that it behaves the same way as our sphere did. So let's go save that, and then I'm going to copy this, and then I'm just going to delete all of it. Where's delete? Why you can't delete it? Can't delete it. Delete that, and then, okay, clearly you can't delete anything. So let's just start again. So what we want to do is we want to paste our cube onto here. So there it is. Let's drag that into our prefabs folder. We'll name this, well, we will rename it to endpoint trigger cube. Well, it's not really a cube anymore, is it? So let's just say endpoint trigger, just like that. We'll save that, and then rename file. What else do we need to do? It's got our endpoint trigger on, so that's fine. It's got our box collider, which is fine. We need to select is triggered, I believe, so we'll select that. And then we need to go and position it at, well, let's go reset it. So there it is. So now let's go click on it. Now we need to go and set the scale of y to be 0. Save that, there it is. And then we need to go and position it in the correct place. So for our cube, we can go and delete it out of our hierarchy, yeah. And then in our first level, we will go and drag it into here, place it underneath there. Cannot restructure prefab instance, open it. Why can't I do that? One wall. Okay, so we might have to open it up. Okay, so now we will go and drag it in. So we'll drag this in here. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the position of our sphere and I'm going to paste that onto our endpoint trigger. There it is. So now we need to go and reposition it at about minus 2.5, I think it is. Where's it gone? Okay, so that's a bit too much. So first of all, we can go and get rid of our sphere because we don't need that anymore. And then this one, I believe we can put it at 0 now. It might need to be minus 0.5 maybe. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So that, I think that's fine. Now let's go back to our actual game and see if this works. So I'm just going to play the game quickly, and then we should be able to see that we can, if I zoom out of here, there we go. Now we can somehow move to our endpoint trigger and see if we can go on top of it. Okay, so now we can go on top of it, and you can see that it is displaying the amount of moves we've made. So it is triggering that the code that we've written, which I believe is in the endpoint trigger script. So let's open that up. It might be in another script, but we'll open that up. And then in here, I believe we want to go and somehow display, yeah, so that is a trigger on trigger enter method that simply displays this line of text in our console. But that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is we want to use this global.moveCount to actually populate our panel, which is over, get there eventually, which is over here. So now we need to go and make a reference to this in our, probably in our UI manager over here. So let's go and create this. So okay, so we already have it here. We have a level complete panel, so all we need to do is now go and use that. So what we want to do is go and say public void level complete. So we'll create a new function called level complete, and then in here we will go and say we'll say level complete dot set active is equal to true. Okay, and then let's see what we have on our level complete. Okay, so now on our level complete we have all these different texts. Let's just go and enable that so we can see what we're working with. So let's double click on this. Okay, so here is our level complete panel. The only thing that we want to change so far is this text here, and this is going to be our score label. That we'll just rename this to title, and then that is going to be next level button. Okay, so that now that those have decent names, we can go and work with them. So we want to create a new text mesh pro. Let's get rid of that. We'll create one of these, copy and paste that, and then we can just change the name of it to move count level complete label. I mean, you can name it whatever you want, but that kind of makes sense. So what we want to do is let's just go and copy what we have in our label first. So we'll copy this, and then we can go modify it in our script over here. So here we want to go and say, we want to do this before we set the panel to be equal to true so that it is visible. So before we go and make it visible, let's go and update the text. So let's go and say move count level complete label. It's a bit of an annoying name, but it'll work. So we'll go and say the name of the label dot text is going to be equal to, and then we'll use our $, and then quotation marks, and then in here we'll paste what we had in our actual label in our scene, and then the only thing we need to change is this 20 digit over here. So let's go and put our curly brackets, and then in here we can just go and pop in our global dot, what is it called, move count. Okay, so that should be fine. So now we need to go and call this method whenever we complete a level. So in our endpoint trigger here, so in our endpoint trigger script, we have our onTrigger event. So whenever we collide with our endpoint, we don't want to go and display this in our console. Instead, we want to go and call the, what did we just name it? We named it our level complete method, which is in our UI manager. So let's go and do this. How are we going to do this? We don't have, actually we do. If we have an endpoint trigger, that means it's going to be in the scene, which means we will have a UI manager in the scene. Okay, so let's go and say private, you don't need a capital, so private is going to be a game object, I think. Game object, what are we going to call it? Private game object, it needs to be our UI manager. And we'll just call it UI manager. But we will give it a space. Okay, UI manager like that. So that's fine. We'll just name this UI manager. Why is it not working? Oh, that's why. Okay, so we don't need both of these. What am I doing? So it's going to be our UI manager, and then we want the same thing, but this one is going to be our UI manager. So that this first one's going to be a type of game object, and the second one's going to be a type of UI manager, and then this one is going to be UI manager script. All right, so what we want to do before we do anything, we want to go and get our start method, and then in here we want to go and assign both of these. So our UI manager is going to be equal to get component, or it needs to be find, because find object of type with a type of UI manager. Find object of type is not really the best way to use, I don't believe, but because this game is going to be relatively small, it shouldn't really make much difference. So Okay, so I believe we can just do this, shorten it out. So we'll go and find our UI Manager script straight off of whatever it's attached to in our game, and then hopefully by doing that we can just go and say UI Manager dot level complete, like that. So we'll save that, and then let's just go and test to see if this actually works. So we'll need to go and disable this, and then we can go and press play. And now all we need to do is we need to navigate our cube all the way from the start to the end, and then onto there. Okay, so obviously it's not going to work because we didn't drag anything into where we need it. Or what does it say? Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay, let's see. UI Manager. Okay, so we need to drag that in, I believe. So on our UI Manager, wherever that is, I believe it's in Managers, and then UI Manager here, we have two empty objects. One is for our move count label, so that is going to be this one, and the next one is going to be for our panel. So we'll drag that one into there. We'll drag that one into there. Okay, there we go. Finally got it. Now we should be able to play the game and see it actually working. So now let's go and navigate into here, up here, and then, okay, so there we have our level complete. We did it, you can see that it works. We completed the level in 24 moves, but you can see at the background, if I still go and play the game, whenever you go and move the cube back into your trigger point, you can see the level complete menu actually still updates. So you can see if I move up and down into and out of the trigger, our number over here is keeps on getting updated. So that's something we will fix in the next episode. But for now, let's go and do something with our next level button here. But before we do that, I'm just going to go and change the color of that because that looks terrible. It's way too bright. So next level button, let's just go and make it a little bit, I don't know, I'll just keep things white like that so it matches everything else. We will update this entire panel here later on in the series, but for now we're just going to get the functionality working correctly, and then until then we will have to deal with how bad it looks. Okay, so let's go and try and get this next level button working. So we need to add in, we will create another manager, and this one will be called, so it's going to create an empty object, and this is going to be called level manager. And this is going to in our level manager, it is going to handle the loading and so the loading in of new levels, and also like taking them out of the scene. So in our scripts folder, let's go and create a new script. That's obviously going to be a C# script, and this is going to be our level manager. And then we can go and attach that onto our level manager game object by simply dragging. You can also go and add component and type it in there. There it is, like that. Or you can just drag it in and drop it onto it. So let's go and edit this script. So here it is, open it up, and now what we want to do is we want to create a method here called public void. What did we name our button? Next level button. Okay, so this is going to be called next level. So this method here, next level method here, is going to be called every time we go and click on our next level button. So for now, we will probably handle this in the next episodes, but for now, let's go and say debug, or we can rather just say print because it's shorter, print, because this does print to the console, I think. So let's go and say next level is loading. Okay, so let's save that, and then we'll jump back into here and then see if this works. So if we press play, this shouldn't be there. So I'm just gonna go and disable that. We'll deal with all of that in the next episode probably. But for now, let's go and play the game and see if this works. So up there and then back up the side. So we've got our level complete now. And if we press, and that's not going to work because we forgot to assign it. So let's go onto our next level button here. And then we've got our on-click event here, but now we can go drag our level manager into there and then go and select which level, not which level, but which function we wanted, or method we wanted to call when it is clicked. So now that we have assigned all of that, we should be able to go and use the button when it pops up. So let's go, we'll complete the level in 24 moves, and if we press that, you can see we have a message in the console saying the next level is loading. So that's all working. That's working fine. So the next episode we will probably go and what do we want to do? We want to go and try and fix, what am I saying? We'll go and handle the next level button so that when we start the game, the panel is not displayed on the screen, but when we finish the level, the panel will be displayed. And then once the panel is displayed and you've read your moves and stuff, you can go and click on the button. And then what we want the button to do is we want it to then go and load in an entirely new level into the scene so that you can play the game or play that level and complete it, and then you can just carry on depending on how many levels there are. So we'll do that in the next episode. What else do we need to do? We need to try and make the levels somehow, well, not the levels, rather, we need to go and try and figure out a way to position the camera spinning in so that it's focused, or its center point is actually in the middle of the level. Because if you see, if we go and disable this one and disable or enable level 2 and press play, you can see that it's not situated in the middle of the level, which is not great. We also need to figure out this bug because that's to do with the positioning of the levels. So that's what we need to go and do in the next episode, because at the moment we can't really get anywhere other than the straight line. So we need to go and figure that out, and then probably in not the next one but the one after that, we'll go and sort out this issue with the spinning of the camera, because we want to situate the level itself in the middle of the scene, because we've got this entire black empty space here that we don't want. So that's what we'll do in the next episode. And while I'm saying that, I just realized that you're looking at me and not my screen, so I apologize for that. But I'll explain what I just explained in the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next episode tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your day or your weekend whenever you're watching this, but for now that's it for me, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.